But I mean, that prayer manifested in a few different ways in my life. And so to be less confused is, I mean, personally for me, I can't speak for other people, but for each of us on our paths, to be less confused is a gift.
You're confusing me a little, but
Okay.
I'm going to follow you because I've been told great. It's becoming clear. It's becoming clearer and clearer. I think that Badeish is more, since she's a psychic, she catches that on that level where I'm kind of more like the lay person, so I like it explained a little more.
Good, bring it down.
So I can relate to it and relate it to the people that are watching.
Good.
So.
Well, I think what's stunning is the language that you speak is from the heart. It's from the soul. It's what you have experienced, and it's rich in layers. And sometimes we have to slow ourselves down to take it in, to understand the meaning of the words that you're choosing to use in the expression, because it's finite. Mm-hmm. And since you had this expression that you just used about how we set an intention through a prayer, you've been a man, I would assume, that's had lots of wonderful synchronicities because of having that going with the flow and not having that confusion now in your life. You've opened your heart up to synchronicities.
And expectations, maybe?
No.
Is that different?
Expectations is very different than
okay. See, she's teaching me all the every show. I learned something.
Well, that's why I was excited about doing the show, because it's rich with there's something here for everybody who's out there that's going to be watching this show. So I think it would be exciting for you to share some of those synchronicities that really were making you very aware or happy, or, you know, because we were a synchronicity. We had no idea that we were going to meet, and synchronistically through a friend, we met and talked, and here you are today. Yeah. So let's talk about synchronicity a little bit.
What exactly?
In spiritual terms.
Okay.
And a little layman too.
Yeah, what I was just wanting specifically is your definition of synchronicity.
I think synchronicity is where you're not really in control. You might have a desire, or you might have a dream or a thought or a prayer, an idea in your head. And say, like you did, you prayed about something, and this wonderful teacher had come into your life. Showed up. That was a synchronicity. For me, it's like I'm not really in control, but when I'm living more conscious, more in the moment, and have an open heart, and not sitting there judging or blaming, but actually being accountable and responsible for my choices, then I'm able to see the synchronistic activities, that the phone rings, something comes in the mail, I see an image of a flower in my head that once was white, and then in front of my eyes goes pink, and then the next day there's a big picture of it on my computer screen. That's the only way I can describe what synchronicity means to me. So I'd like to hear your definition.
Well, as I hear you specifically speak that way, I would have to say I live that way.
That's a great way to live.
I mean, so, you know, to say, is one bigger than the other, and, you know, is there, you know, what's the mountain and what's the valley? It's just, that's how I live. I mean...
Isn't that the goal of everyone? I mean, if everyone could live synchronistically, that means the things that need to flow into their lives would just flow. You'd be in the flow. Right, wouldn't you be in the flow? You don't want to say that, but I'll say it. That's how I see it.
Here's the way I would say it. The path is the goal.
That's right. Didn't they say that?
Right now.
Yeah. Some people want to get to the goal, and I heard a saying one time, you know, people want to get to their destination, but for the Italians, the trip is the travel, getting there is the whole thing, is the pleasure. Yeah, that's kind of what you're saying.
The path is the goal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, that's a tricky question, because I would have to weigh a whole bunch of things. And
I don't want you to weigh a lot. I want you to just be free to be yourself and answer, because that's the delight of you. Because even if I don't completely grasp it, I'm going to be honest enough to say, can you say it in another way? Because I want to grasp it.
Well, I think the next, I'm going to skip that question, because I think this one here about what does it mean to live in the present moment? I think we get those synchronistic events when we're living in the present moment. I hear a lot of people, you talk about suffering, I hear a lot of people complaining about the same old stuff goes on in their life, I think because they're living in the past and they're bringing the past into the present. Or they're living in the future. So our question, I'm not sure what the answer is going to be, is, but what does it mean to live in the present moment? I mean, why is that such a good spiritual concept?
Because this is it.
Yeah, that's all we have.
Darn it.
This is this is as good as it gets.
As good as it gets.
Right now. I mean, and sometimes it's like a thunderbolt to some people, because what do you mean this is as good as it gets, you know? But this is it. Each one of us, the camera people, the interviewers, me, we've all come to this moment. And if we can't meet it with our full potential, then we're in the past, you know, worrying about, or we're architecting the future, and the future may never get here, and we're sure not going back to the past. And so this is it. Like, we've arrived. Here we are.
Make it good. Right. I'm getting
Make it authentic.
I think I'm beginning to understand Jeffrey now. I got that.
Well, you know, the other aspect, I think, of living in the moment, that I try in my life to be conscious that it is a gift to be present with someone and be absolutely present with them, where they know you're 100% there with them, you're hearing them, you're giving them the full attention, so that there can be an intimacy. And you know, out there in the general public, I think there's a misunderstanding about intimacy. Because intimacy on a spiritual level is that it's heart to heart, it's soul to soul, and there is absolutely no judgment going on, because you're having too much fun having the party of having that being in the now and that expression of the now, because it's a party. There's no other there's not all this other stuff going on inside the head, because you're so present with that other person, and yet your senses are also heightened. That's what I find in being present with people. It's not just because, you know, God bless me with, you know, a little extra sensory. I think everybody's got it. It's just I chose to use it.
And it helps you. It really does, because you are there. It really helps you. But I think for most people, they don't have that, and they don't do that. I think a lot of the suffering occurs too when people are in the past or the future. I think one of my books that I read, a lot of people are in the hospitals these days because of what's going on in their head, what they're thinking, what they're worrying about, what they're fearing. So if you're in the present now and nothing's happening to you, you're okay. So stay there, right?
Well, we live moment to moment, and we are where we are. We can't go to the past, and we can't go to the future. So in this moment, aren't we defining basically our next movement?
Yeah, I like what you say about being fully present. That's really good, because I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of, you know, talking to someone. I really try to focus on them, but I will on the show, because it's important that I do. You know, and your mind's wandering, but it is important to enjoy the moment, to be fully there. To be fully present.
We often notice that, I mean, when you're speaking to people sometimes, you can tell if they're present or not, or if they're preoccupied.
They're checked out.
Yeah, or I mean, they're just preoccupied. And a good friend of mine once said that respect and dignity were the hallmark of communication.
Yeah.
Respect,
so when we're right here, I'm with you.
Yes.
I'm not.
And that's the respect.
Yes.
And then you're right here, and that's your respect. And when you have respect, you have trust, and that person doesn't have to be perfect.
Right,
they are
not
perfect,
judging them.
They're so beautiful and perfect just the way they are.
Absolutely.
With even their little shortcomings. And when you come away from an experience like that,